and that is so much better. There should be lots and lots of adjustment available here. No bite, no bite, bite. A pool of fresh oil. With hindsight, it would have been easier for me to check the size of that when it was off the car, wouldn't it? Hello and a warm welcome back to Morsels and Motors. In this little episode I'm going to be working on a car I've not worked on before, which is this Jim's Fiat Panda. There are a couple of things that need doing on it. There's an oil leak coming from the gearbox, so I need to investigate where that might be coming from and see what we can do about that. And the second one is the clutch. I'll rewind a little bit. I drove this car for the first time a couple of months ago and I really found it a struggle to drive because the clutch biting point was so close to the floor that it was almost uncontrollable. Took a long time to get used to it. You had no travel at all in the pedal before it immediately engaged. So and it also meant that you had to put the pedal all the way to the floor every time you wanted to change a gear, otherwise it crunched. So I don't think that's normal. Jim says that's how it's been for a long time, but I think he's just got used to it. I'm going to compare the specifications that it should be to what it actually is and see whether I can make an adjustment and hopefully make it drive a little bit nicer. So let's get to it. I've decided to tackle this clutch pedal first, just because it's potentially an easy fix. So that's where it is currently. It does seem quite significantly lower than the brake pedal, so that doesn't seem right to me. To depress the clutch all the way to the floor like that, it literally engages about there, if not there. It's like no travel whatsoever. Let's get the bonnet open. Okay, the clutch adjustment is hard to film, but it's down here where my finger is. There's a lock nut and then an adjusting nut that adjusts that thread. So I'm going to take a baseline reading measurement so that if it all goes wrong I can put it back. And I would say that from the end of where the thread goes to that bit of bulkhead, or that bit of clutch fork adjustery thing, whatever it's called, it's probably 19 millimeters. So we'll take that as our baseline and do some adjusting and see if I can make that a little bit. I would say, I think, I'm no expert on this, I think I need to make it a little tighter so that the clutch engages sooner as I press the clutch pedal down. I mean, there's billions, and you can see up there, there's loads and loads and loads of the threaded screw there, or the threaded part of the clutch cable. So there should be lots and lots of adjustment available here. So I'll give it a go, see what happens. Alright, I've made an adjustment. So the end of the thread to the bulky head bit there is probably about 2.7 centimeters. So let's see if that, so we've moved it about 8 millimeters. Let's see if that actually makes any difference whatsoever. Well, certainly as I come into the car, the clutch pedal is actually now higher and is pretty much level with the brake pedal, so that's a good start. The adjustment has done something up here, so let's see what happens when I start the engine. Make sure we're neutral. Okay, engine started. I should put it in reverse so I don't run over my tools. Oh, it's not biting yet. Oh, that's good. Oh, there's the bite. Oh, that's good. Yes. Okay, that's a lot better. There's like we're moving now. Not moving. So there's like an inch or so of travel. More than that, probably. So there's no bite, bite. There. I had a little look on some of the specifications again, and it said that the clutch pedal should be about 8 millimeters below the brake pedal, and so I just backed it off a few turns because it was a bit too flush. So I backed it off a tiny bit, and that is now sitting probably, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'd say that's probably roughly about 8mm lower than the brake pedal. So I think that's about right now. So that's good. Okay, I've just taken it for a test drive just down my little lane and back, and that is so much better. I'm really happy with that. That is really good. It just bites where it should, not right on the floor. So I don't have to be quite so precise, and it's no longer at risk of stalling, which it was the first couple of times I drove it. I kept stalling it constantly, because if I just breathed towards my foot whilst it was flat on the floor and it moved like tiny slightly amount, it would stall because the clutch engaged. So yeah, that is great. I'm pleased with that. That feels much more natural. Hopefully Jim will be pleased with it as well. We'll see. Right, the reason I did that job first actually was because I need to drive this car on some ramps now to have a look at the gearbox leak, and I really was quite terrified about doing that with such a fierce clutch, in case I had have overshot the ramps, which would be not fun. So I'm just going to go and tighten up the lock nut on the adjuster, and yeah, call that a day on that job, and I will get the my ramps out. Okay. This is the bottom of the drive shaft, and yes, there is a dab of oil. You can see a droplet of oil wanting to drop down. That side of the drive shaft, so the front side of it, is completely dry. Taking a look around the side and the back, it does seem, if I go back a bit further, it does seem to be a bit wet here. So you think it might be the drive shaft, but I can't see any splits in it, because this is a wet drive shaft that holds the gearbox oil on. Now, I think then if you then carry on upwards, there's still wetness upwards, but there's a bolt there that's got some oil droplets on it that I can see, and so I do think that it is coming from higher up, and it's not coming from this drive shaft boot itself, because it looks in really good condition. Right, let's see if I get a torch in there. Now you can see there is a pool of fresh oil sitting next to the where the speedo cable enters the gearbox. I don't want to count my chickens, but I feel that might actually be the culprit. I don't know whether I can tighten that or something like that to improve the seal. Okay, I have managed to take the speedometer cable out of the gearbox by unscrewing it. It took me a little while to work out how to do it. I wasn't sure whether this unscrewed or pulled. Anyway, it unscrews. I cannot find any evidence whatsoever that there has ever been a seal on this. I can't see any seal on the gearbox end of any kind. So I'm guessing it's our culprit. I mean, I'm guessing there should be a seal, but I don't know. But it definitely looks a bit wet. So I've been cleaning a bit around the engine bay to try and diagnose where exactly this oil leak is coming from. And as I was cleaning it up on top of the gearbox here, I brushed against this sensor or whatever it is. I'm guessing it's a, actually I have no idea what it is, but it's something that goes into the gearbox with some electric connections. But anyway, it is completely loose. So I have a pretty sneaking suspicion that that might be where our leak is. So if I unclip that and see if I can tighten it up, maybe that will solve it. Alright, let's see how I can unclip this. Okay. Electrical connection disconnected. Well, first of all, I'm going to unscrew it just to see how filthy and dirty it is underneath. So it is pretty skanky, I would say. There's a lot of hot oil has been around there, and down there is the hole it goes into, and there is quite a lot of kind of evidence of oil around there. So that could well be our culprit and it doesn't have an oil seal on it. Should it have one? I would say an O-ring or something like that. I would say probably yes. Right, I've given the this, I presume it's like an oil pressure sensor or oil temperature sensor or something like that. I've given it a good clean. I've also cleaned the area around it. I don't have an O-rings as in rubber ones, but this isn't the sort of thing that we usually have a rubber O-ring, I wouldn't have thought. I think it's more likely to have a crush washer. So let me see if I can find one that fits out of my little kit. Just screwing that into place. And I'll get a spanner. Actually, the crush washer sits nicely on the actual body of the car, so I think it'll centralise really well. Ooh. Most of this video is going to be out of focus, I suspect. Right, I'm just going to get a spanner, and with hindsight it would have been easier for me to check the size of that when it was off the car, wouldn't it? Oh well. Access for a spanner was too difficult, so I found the right socket for it to 24. So I'm going to see if I can tighten that up now. There we go. That's just tightening. Right, I've just tightened that enough to give the crush washer a bit of a crush, so that'll hopefully make a nice oil seal. So let's get the electrical connector back on. There it is. It's now, in fact, around the other side by now because I've had to rotate it so much to actually get in and tight. Okay, that's good and tight, so cross fingers that that's the issue. Okay, so hopefully that is successful. I'm just going to take it for a road test on a drier day than today because it's a little bit drizzly, and just see if there's any build-up of oil around that area again, and if there isn't, then happy days, it's fixed. I'm pretty confident that that is it because that was clearly completely loose, so oil would have been pouring out of that hole when the gearbox was moving about. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we sorted it, so that is really good. So that's it, we've fixed the two jobs on the Panda. Yeah, join me again for the next video, whether we're driving something or fixing something, I don't know yet, but we'll see. Take care, bye.